The Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver released their stats package for July, and the numbers are really interesting. Sales have dropped 43.3%. That's down 35% from the 10-year average, which means July's numbers were really down compared to previous years. And housing prices dropped 2.2% compared to the previous month, but we're still up 10% from the previous year. But those numbers don't tell the whole story, and they aren't the numbers that we really want to know. The numbers that we really want to know is just how much is the Vancouver area down from the top of the market. And I dug deep this month in the Vancouver Real Estate Update to give you exactly those numbers, so stay tuned. The definitive guide on how to manage your credit, product, penalty, price in that order. It's never been more important to get your mortgage right. All right, so welcome back. That is likely one of my favorite intros that I've ever done because this month's stat package from the Greater Vancouver Real Estate Board, or the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver, is really interesting, and it paints a little bit of a different picture than what's actually going on. Because contrary to what the reports would have you believe, up 10% from last year and only down 2% from the previous month, the Greater Vancouver real estate area is down pretty significantly in almost every single market. And I'm going to show you exactly how much, because like I said, we dug deep and I'm going to show you all the numbers and what they actually are. And I think you will be surprised. There are definitely going to be some buying opportunities in Vancouver, which is something that we have not been able to say for quite some time. But before we get into all the details, do me that favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and please hit that like button so more people like you can see this video. And if you are going to be getting into the market in the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, the next 2 years, I've got something very special for you at the very end of this video. So stay tuned until the end in order to see what that is. I'll give you a hint. We're going to take the fear of buying out of the equation for whatever your time horizon is, whether you're looking to buy this month, 3 months from now, a year from now, or 5 years from now. So stay tuned to the very end of the video for that. All right, so let's get into the video. Let's jump into the headlines and take a look at what the news is reporting, what the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver is reporting, and then what the actual numbers are. So let's start right here. First and foremost, BNN Bloomberg, Vancouver home sales sank 22.8% in July as rate hikes bite. I'm actually surprised that they didn't report the year-over-year numbers here, because this 22.8% number is how much sales are down from the previous month, or June. But compared to the last year, sales are actually down 43.3%. That is one of the worst years in recent memory with respect to housing sales in July in the Vancouver area. In fact, it's 35.2% below the 10-year average for the month. So in other words, sales in July in Vancouver were down a lot. This is the first time in a long time that this has happened. And this is where it gets really interesting, because the price numbers become a little bit deceiving here. Despite the plunge in sales, prices were relatively stable. The Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver said the benchmark price for Metro Vancouver dipped 2.2% sequentially to $1,207,400. So sequentially means compared to the previous month. But compared to the year earlier, the benchmark price rose by 10.3%. Now, the question is, how much are we down from the highs? Who cares about last year? Because we had this significant run up at the end of 2021 and early 2022. Who cares what the numbers look like compared to last year? What we want to see is how much we're down since the Bank of Canada started increasing interest rates. So stay tuned for a minute, because I'm going to show you that. But I do want to show you first, before we get there, the news report from the actual Real Estate Board here. And this is the basic numbers. So Metro Vancouver market highlights: detached homes benchmark price is now over $2 million. Townhouses, if you're looking for something that's attached, is now around $1 million. And apartments you can still get into for about $755,000. Now, the number of sales has gone down substantially. This is no surprise. This was part of the headlines. What's surprising is that this number has gone down compared to the 10-year average. So other markets still seem to be at that kind of 10-year moving average back to a normal market. Vancouver's market has actually dipped below what a normal market would be with respect to sales. And then if you go and you take a look at this, you can go and look this up online real easy. They basically go on to show you the composite numbers. So composite means townhouses, apartments, and houses, and detached houses all together. They say that this is at 1,207,000, which is 10.3% increase over last year and 2.3% decrease compared to last month, which makes everything seem like it's just fine. There's no problem here. Similar to the Toronto Real Estate Board when they put out their numbers this week and said everything's fine, interest rates have gone up, but the fundamentals are still the same. ignoring the fact that the fundamentals are interest rates and borrowing costs and how much people qualify for, and that leads to market demand and so on and so forth. By the way, if you want to see that video, the market update video for Toronto, I'll link it up right here. But this is where it really gets interesting, because the truth of the matter is that the Vancouver market isn't up 10% from last year. Well, it is up 10% from last year, but that's not the stat that's relevant. And yes, it's down 2.2% from June, but the question really is, how much is it down since the Bank of Canada started increasing interest rates and since the top of the market? And the numbers get really, really interesting here. So in the same way that I went through the Toronto numbers and dug deep, I went through and did the exact same thing with Vancouver numbers, comparing April, which was the top of the market for Vancouver. It was March for Toronto, and comparing that to July of this year and seeing just how much housing prices have gone down. And as we jump into the numbers here, what you'll see is that the numbers aren't up 10% or aren't down just 2%. They are down pretty substantially across the market, with the exception of a few key areas. So let's start first and foremost by talking about the areas where the market is not down. If you take a look at Whistler, and you take a look at West Vancouver, and you take a look at Richmond, and you take a look at North Vancouver, and you take a look at Bowen Island, these markets all seem to be down about 2 to 3% since the top of the market. Now, what do these markets all have in common? Well, they're markets where generally very wealthy people are buying who may not be as susceptible to higher interest rates and higher borrowing costs. Maybe they bought in cash, maybe interest rates going from 1% to 5% doesn't affect them as much because they've got the cash flow to cover it. But basically, this is the same story that we saw in Toronto. The high-end real estate markets aren't getting affected as much as the normal real estate markets by the increased interest rates. This is very much showing that there's less price elasticity in those high-end markets, meaning that changes to the market aren't affecting them as much as they are in other areas. And then you start to look at other areas of Vancouver. So you start to look at the Lower Mainland in general, down 14.41%. The entire Greater Vancouver area down 12.16%. Burnaby North is down 18%, Coquitlam's down 15.3%, and Port Coquitlam is down 18.59%. So what do these markets have in common? Well, they are all markets where in general, the housing prices are lower. So what that tells us is that people who are buying in the lower end market are being more affected. It's also telling us that those lower end areas of the markets were the areas that had the irrational exuberance that led to bidding wars and rapidly increasing prices. And now that interest rates are going up, those buyers that were buying on high leverage are starting to filter their way out of the market, waiting to see what's going to happen. Because what higher interest rates has essentially done is it's eliminated that irrational need to go and get into a bidding war, because now people know that they are going to be able to buy a house, not necessarily in a scenario where they're at a bidding war. They don't have to beat out 19 other people in order to buy that home. They don't have to bid $200,000 or $300,000 over the asking price, because the market, thank you to the Bank of Canada, has returned at least a little bit back to normal. Now, a lot of people in the comments have told me that I said, like many realtors, that you should buy in the hot market and buy, because you may not have another chance. You can go back and you can look in the video archives here. I was one of the few people in the market that was saying to people, don't get caught into bidding wars unless you absolutely need to. And the good news is, like I predicted in the fall of last year, is in these markets like Vancouver and Toronto that had these crazy bidding wars happening, those markets have very much come back to at least a normal process for the buying process. And you can now go in, find a home, negotiate the price, and not find yourself in this scenario where you're in a crazy bidding war against a whole bunch of other people. So the reality here is this, is anytime the market gets crazy, those are times that you don't want to buy unless you have to. My buddy Steve Koresh, who covers the Vancouver area very, very well. By the way, check him out. Go check out his channel. He put it the best during this whole run up, and that is that the market between January of 2021 and March of 2022 was a needs market, not a wants market. If you wanted to buy a home, it wasn't necessarily the right time. If you needed to buy a home, you just had to fight your way through the bidding wars and all the craziness. So the Vancouver market isn't up 10%. It isn't down just 2%. It's down in general 8 to 9% across the board, with the exception of a few high-end markets. And the reality is that there's now an opportunity to start buying houses in a more normal market. Now, do I think housing prices are going to come down significantly more than this? yeah, they may have some room to go down from there. But at the end of the day, there's always people that need to buy a home. Maybe it's because of a divorce situation. Maybe it's because rents are going through the roof. Maybe it's because it's just that point in life where you need to buy a home because you've got kids on the way or you've got a family that you want to have a piece of property for them to own rather than renting and paying off a landlord's mortgage. But the big thing right now is that there's a massive amount of fear about jumping into the market on its way down. The fear should have been jumping into the market when it was on its way up. Now that we're on its way down, you're starting to see less price pressure. You're starting to see opportunities to buy. And you can start to rest assured that if you're purchasing into a more normal market with normal interest rates, that you're probably not going to see massive declines or a massive crash anytime soon. Now, there is that possibility. The caveat here is even the best economists can't make the best predictions. But my guess is, given the number of people who are coming into the country and given just the basic fundamentals outside of borrowing costs, that's a hat tip to the Toronto Real Estate Board. My guess is that those basic fundamentals are going to support the market, at least in the near term and probably in the long term as well. So if you have fear of buying, know this: the time to fear is in the run up, not the rundown. And if you start looking at purchasing now and you're buying with the long term in mind, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, this blip on the radar is going to be exactly that, just a blip on the radar. So here's the question though: what do you need to do to be able to purchase in this market going forward? Well, you need to stop relying on real estate agents and mortgage brokers and your family members for information and advice. And you need to make sure that you aren't following the herd blindly. And what that means is that now is the time where you need to take responsibility for your own education when it comes to real estate. And up until this point, we've had our first time home buyers course, which was great. It was awesome. But what I realized is it's not just first-time homebuyers that need to get educated and need to have access to the best information. So what I've done is I've put together a homebuyer masterclass, which is designed to give you as good of, if not a better education than most realtors get on the home buying process. Now, keep in mind, I've been in the mortgage industry for 20 years. I've also done turnarounds on real estate companies. So all the secrets, all the tips, all the tricks are things that I've had experience with in my 20 years in the business. And what we've done is we've put this into one masterclass that will make you one of the most educated buyers in the market and will eliminate all the fear of buying, because you're going to know what you're getting into. You're going to know how to select a realtor. You're going to know some negotiation tricks that most realtors don't even know. By the way, I am a certified negotiating expert for whatever that means, but I've taken all the negotiation courses in the real estate industry, and I know how to set a buyer up so that they have the information that they need in order to buy a property and get a really, really good deal on it. And with this new Home Buyers Masterclass, we're going to do it in cohorts. So the first cohort starts on September 12th. And there's going to be 3 options to buy in. The first is an early bird. If you take action today, you'll be able to get it at the absolute lowest cost. If you take action prior to August 31st, you'll still be able to get an early bird price. It won't be as good as if you buy in today. And your last chance to get into this first cohort is going to be September 11th. By the way, if you buy in now, you will have lifetime access to all the information and all the updates as well. So if you're a month away or 3 months away or a year away or 5 years away from buying a home, it doesn't matter. You'll have access to the information, and this is going to give you what you need in order to make sure that you don't make any mistakes in the buying process. And on top of all that, you'll never be able to get into this Homebuyer Masterclass at as low of a price as it is right now. This is the founding group, and it is going to be priced accordingly because this is the founding group. So you get access to any updates in the future. This is going to set you up whether you're a first-time home buyer or you're somebody who's been through the buying process before, but maybe it's been a while. And like I said, it's going to give you all the tips and tricks and the insider information that you wouldn't otherwise get in the industry. So you can go to the link in the description below. I highly recommend you click that link, or go to homebuyermasterclass.ca to find out all the details and to register for that first cohort of what I think is going to be the single best source of information in the Canadian real estate industry going forward for consumers. So on that note, if you found this video useful, do me that favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Please hit that like button so more people like you can see this video, and we'll see you on the very next one. Cheers.